Greetings collectors and welcome to today's show. I've got something special today for you from the shores of our favourite gaming nation, Japan. Today I'm taking a surreal look into the world of Cho Aniki for the Sega Saturn. To give the game its full name, Cho Aniki, Kyuukyoku, Muteki, Ginga, Saikyou, Otoko. You will forgive me though if I stick with the simpler title, Cho Aniki, for this episode. Also, my apologies to the nation of Japan for destroying your language just then. The game name translates to something pretty similar as Super Older Big Brother, the ultimate invincible Milky Way strongest man. Although direct translations differ, the overall meaning is very much the same. The game was developed by Masaya. This company actually made two other games that I enjoy very much, Ganoog, known as Wings of War in the US, and Hellfire, another excellent game that I've actually enjoyed to speedrun in the past. Usually when I make these retrospectives, I have a clear starting and end point to give you a flavour of the game and whether you should be considering collecting it or not. With Cho Aniki though, the game is such a mishmash of elements, I think that a straight yes or no recommendation may be well out of the question. Instead, think of this episode as a gentle way to ease yourself into the madness that only Japan can provide. To give you some context, Cho Aniki is a game that is actually designed to be, well, bad. It's an interesting subgenre of Japanese gaming called kusoge. This translates something along the lines of crappy, or bakage, which is idiot game. Here in the UK we would understand this by words like naff, camp or kitsch, something that is intentionally of low quality or garish. Think something along the lines of the Rocky Horror Show. For Cho Aniki, this is certainly the case. The other overriding feature is the homoerotic nature of the shooter. The combination of the two make for some very bizarre imagery. As the world is under attack, the lead protagonists Idaten and Benton must fight the hordes of unusual enemies. Underneath all of the weirdness, this is very much a standard side-scrolling shooter concept. Your character as well as the enemies are digitised sprites, adding to the distinct feel of this edition of the game. Previous entries in the series had been animated sprites in a more traditional way. Each level of the game plays as a regular shooter. Destroy certain waves of enemy and you receive power-ups to your fire and also additional special powerful attacks. These can be executed by using the secondary fire button and can be very handy during longer boss fights. The boss fights in this game are suitably weird. What's this? What's this? What on earth is happening here? Stylistically, the game reminds me very much of Monty Python and Terry Gilliam's distinctive interlude cartoons. It's all rather postmodern, and no point trying to analyse any deep context to the imagery. Having said that, there's a whole can of worms to open if you care to look at some of the graphics. There's certainly an overload of everything camp and gay here. I'm fine with the gayness, the surreal nature of the game, and the off-the-wall soundtrack and sound effects. You just have to accept this game for what it is. As you might expect though, for a long time this game was confined to Japan only. I can imagine that other than a novelty, this would be a hard sell to cultures outside of Japan, and those that understand the cultural context of the game. It's interesting as I'm not sure how the gay community would find this one. On the one hand, there's a very openly homosexual themed game, which is a true trailblazer. On the other hand, this is a game that portrays a very specific type of campness, with oily muscle men and a larger than life attitude. I can see how this could also be interpreted as a very offensive stereotype by many. For what it's worth, I think that the developers' intentions were good here. I think that the general level of madness throughout lets the audience know that this is a satirical spoof. Personally, I mean no offence to anyone by making this episode, I'm just bringing it to light as part of an open look at the game. In terms of gameplay, I was reasonably impressed. The shooting and power-up mechanics all very straightforward and I found the experience quite entertaining. You can't play a game like this and not see the humorous side. The difficulty of this game from what I consider slightly poor game design. I play a lot of shooters, Japanese in particular. As such, the first thing to do is establish the hitbox. This is the area that the enemy can hit on your character. For some reason this seemed very difficult to establish in Cho Aniki. There's certainly some leeway on the tolerance, but I was never 100% certain where I was vulnerable. The other issue was the cheap deaths, as you can be vastly outnumbered at times, making it near impossible to avoid a direct hit. To add to this, if you lose a life, your power-ups are downgraded, leading to that age-old issue of having to sometimes take on a boss fight with a puny basic shot pattern. I'm not going to criticise the game for this, as it's obviously intended to be a bad game. Overall though, if you're into your shooting games, you're going to be straight in and enjoying this one. I'd like to touch on the packaging of the game. The CD jewel case is fairly standard, but does have some nice artwork on the front cover. There is also an 18 rating awarded to the game. The manual is rather short and sweet, and not anywhere near as mad as you might expect. Even the CD doesn't particularly hint towards the madness of the game itself. As the game has become quite notorious, this has been reflected in the price. I paid just £18 for my copy around 2014. That's around $25 at today's exchange. My copy is missing the spine card, but all in good shape otherwise. Looking at recent completed eBay prices though, including shipping from Japan, expect to pay anywhere from £40 to £50. That's around $55 to $70. At the moment, it's not unusual to see this game with list prices in excess of £100 outside of Japan. The chances are that if you're collecting this title, you're doing it for the novelty value rather than the actual gameplay. As game collectors, we're sometimes hit with this phenomenon. A game that was obscure but nothing too special to play rapidly has its price pushed up by collectors as they try to compete in the ever-decreasing availability market. The increased use of the internet reviews are partially to blame for this, so sorry for that guys. Where will the price of Cho Aniki on the Sega Saturn end? Well, who knows, but I would expect the game to hold its price for at least some time. Although this is only a short introduction for collectors, here's a short compilation to give you an overall feel of the game. If you enjoy crazy gay homoerotic Japanese shooters, then this is definitely the game for you. So, have you been able to collect Cho Aniki? What are your thoughts on the game? Harmless fun or a stereotype that we could do without? Let me know in the comments. Hello again, I hope you enjoyed today's show and thank you for the view. Remember, you can always comment, like, subscribe and find us on the social media sites below. Happy collecting!